Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. This is going to be a short and unusual impromptu video. I grabbed my camera on the way out for a lockdown permitted walk, and regrettably, no spare batteries. Most of the walk so far has been through heavy snow, and it has lightened up a bit to a light flurry now, and there's still enough light to film by. The winter night is not far away though, and the cold saps the camera battery fast. I'm currently in the hills above my hometown of Hebden Bridge, on the Howarth Road, and heading in the direction of the Wiley Windy Moors that Emily Bronte wrote so evocatively of in Wuthering Heights. I do not think we will get quite so far as the moors today, or the ruin of an isolated farmhouse above Howarth that inspired Miss Bronte. I plan on veering off in the other direction, up a farm track, past another ruined farmhouse that I haven't visited before, but have spotted from many walks on these hills. I don't know if it'll have any potential for filming. Hopefully we'll see some wildlife along the way, and some Yorkshire hills in the cold embrace of snow. There is a rabbit down there, braving the cold. I smile to see it, but it's not comfortable with my presence, so let's leave it be. That 4x4 disappearing down the track is the last in a convoy of 4 that were coming down off the moors. They're a local group doing good work by helping people with their high-spec off-road vehicles. Sometimes it's getting shopping to isolated farms, or helping the emergency services get to people in trouble. I hope the presence of 4 of them doesn't mean that somebody got into trouble on the hills, but it is the sort of weather for it. A fair number of sheep over the other side of the valley, being much noisier than sheep usually are here. I don't know if that's because they're upset by the snow or enjoying it, but there is a farm closer to them than I am, and somebody there will know better than I. At the top of what's visible of the road now, there is a barn, which I'm pretty sure is home to some owls. I'm not 100% sure what type of owl yet. Probably barn owl is quite likely, but there are 2 others that live up here, the tawny owl and the little owl, which I've seen a few of. I'm not sure which owls are in the barn yet, because I haven't heard them and I've only seen them in the half-light of twilight. I'm hoping to get up there in summer and set up a camera in readiness to get some good shots of it heading out hunting and returning home. I like lichen, sometimes pronounced lichen, very hardy multi-organism symbiotic colonies of algae or cyanobacteria living together with fungus. Can't say that they're one of the most successful species, even though they grow on almost everything and almost everywhere. Because they're not one species, there's upwards of 20,000 varieties. I've only spotted about 20 around here. I have filmed in this stream before. Not up here in the hills, but down valley in the woodland. It's good for Carboniferous era fossils and foraging. Truck coming up behind, and quad bikes. Who'd have thought that a road so rural in the snow would be so busy? Hopefully it won't freeze tonight. Brakes would mean little coming down a hill this steep on unsalted, compacted snow with patches of ice beneath. No matter how fit I get, I've never once managed to walk up this hill without a stop to catch my breath. So, the dry stone walls looking ever so precarious up here, but although there have been repairs and a few efforts to support bits, the survivors, and this one, I'd reckon, is probably partially 200 to 300 years old. The camera won't be catching this, but I do like looking up into snow falling down. I quite enjoy looking in the gaps in walls too, hoping to see little creatures living there. I think these gaps are too exposed, as evidenced by the icicles, but I have seen nests in walls before, and they can be quite a rich little ecosystem. Oh, that's pretty, and marginally interesting. Icicles hanging from the branches, but none of them hanging straight down. In fact, they're the wonkiest collection of icicles I think I've ever seen. I just saw one of the owls returning to the barn. If it's feeding a chick, it might be heading out again soon. If not, it'll be in the barn when I get there, and either eating or roosting on one of the main beams. Barn owl. I got a good look at it. Beautiful bird, and it must be hunting to feed a chick, heading out again so soon. It's heading across the valley directly to where the sheep are. So I don't know, maybe tiny mammals make fatal errors in judgment when the sheep are running amok, if that's where it's hunting. This is the barn that the barn owl lives in, and it looks like it could do with a new roof beam before long. It's hard to tell if it's urgent or not, because the house I grew up in had a bow like that in the roof that was fine for 30-odd years before it became not fine. Of course, that house had glass in the windows, and so the interior could be kept relatively dry. Could well be the beam in that there barn may be rotten through and ready to collapse. I wasn't expecting there to be snow on the interior beams, nor the back wall, so there must be some considerable holes in the roof. Lots of algae on the wood too, so it's damp, and signs of where birds have, perched. No clear sign of the owl nest, so it might be in the corner up where this wall meets the roof, in which case I should leave, so I don't unduly terrify the little owl chick I suspect is there. That looks like an owl pellet. The adult owl might be home soon if the hunt is successful, and I don't want to upset it, so I'll be brief in my admiration of the construction of this barn, which is far better built than a lot. I think early 1800s, making use of much older timbers. That beam up there looks straight out of a timber frame building, maybe as early as the 16th century. It'd certainly be interesting for me, taking a core sample of it and finding out. Bit of subsistence on this corner. I think, sadly, this building is going to become a ruin in the next few decades. Now, up that way is a trackway to Howarth, and it's quite a pleasant walk over the moorland, albeit more or less a straight line. I hope to be able to walk to Howarth, mudlarking the river there, and walk back again one day carrying my finds, but the days at the moment are a bit too short, so that's a late spring, summer sort of thing, and today I'm heading this way instead. So many of these little streams up here, about 3 miles upstream of where they all join together, can actually start to be called a river. Pristine snow out this side of our farm. I didn't feel comfortable filming the actual farmyard because people were working there. I can't quite imagine the realities of such an all-weather job as sheep farming. A thankless sort of a job too. The townsfolk downstream don't much like the fact that land with sheep in abundance is much less absorbent than land covered in trees, and the towns are facing once-in-a-century floods roughly every 5 years now. It's only partially because of sheep farming, which has been going on here for at least 1,000 years. It's also to do with ever more land being built on, and the grouse hunting operation on the moor, which, well, even when they don't break the laws which are supposed to protect the wildlife and for areas of specific scientific interest, their practices wreck the absorbency of a lot of the moorland. I'm not a fan. It's easy to forget that some icicles grow from melted snow. These ones are unlikely to last long. They look like they're on the borderline between solid ice and slush. It's going to be interesting seeing how high the rivers get when all this melts. I didn't know there'd be a bridge here. My acquired inclination after years of mudlarking is to check under bridges for interesting things. I really don't think there'll be much to find beneath this one though. There are no more farms upstream. Although somewhere there will be rubbish piles from the 2 farms that border the stream, probably buried and possibly near enough to the stream to be eroded out, so it may be worth taking a look in summer. These farms have been here a long time, and that means maybe some very old things. I shall have to try and befriend the farmer. Well, I was not expecting the farmhouse to be so neatly dismantled, the roof carefully removed before it could collapse, and the tops of the walls neatened up and stabilized. Can already see the internal floors have collapsed, and it's now just a shell. Sadly, though sensibly, it's encircled with barbed wire to prevent mostly sheep, but also explorers like me from entering what could still be a dangerous structure, even with the roof carefully removed. Now that crack looks old, and it looks like it was repaired when this was still a working farm. It sort of looks like the whole house part of the building is subsiding away from the barn part. I wonder whether it's the shifting landscape, which over one lifetime doesn't change much, but over the lifetime of a building this old, may have seen springs disappear underground and spring up again in unfortunate places, maybe soaking the ground beneath a building. It's also quite interesting to me that there's a lot of soot built up on these stones on the back, some too on the sides, and hardly any soot on the front. Now, could that be because of the controlled burning of the moorland for grouse favourable habitat? Or were the sides of the house most exposed to gale force winds and driving rains, once covered in a bitumen layer for waterproofing? That upstairs window looks like that might have been a weaving room. And in case you might be wondering why I'm not just climbing over this fence for a look about inside, it's because it's in plain view of the last farmhouse, who probably owned this land, this building, erected this fence so there'd be no unfortunate accidents, and they know my face. I walk these hills a lot, and I have chatted with the farmer a few times, which might stand me in good stead if I want to search out old dump sites on the land, but only if I don't ruin it by being seen trespassing in a place they don't want me to go. Besides, there's very little left on the inside, beyond some stacked up fallen stones. Must admit that as tumble-down old farmhouses go, this one is not especially sparking that unrealistic desire to buy it, renovate it, and live in it that I am quite often prone to. I have already filmed at the one that most sparks that desire in me. That one has amazing potential. This one, I think, wouldn't be all that nice a place to live in. It's very exposed, and the people who once did live here must surely have been very hardy indeed. For winters up here, back then, would have commonly seen snow 6 feet deep, with drifts possibly up to the roofline, and still they would have had to go out and take care of the sheep. Okay, time to move on. I'd like to make it back to the lit section of road before it gets dark, and home before the night chill moves in. There's a sheep ahead, staring at me. Am I really so scary that creatures must flee before me? I suppose I am a member of a very dangerous species. It's been many years since I've seen my foot sink that far into snow. I've missed it. Sadly, I don't think the battery is going to last much longer, certainly not all the way to the road, which is still a half-mile distant, but you can be sure I got home safely. A very brief roundup in which I simply give thanks to the many people who've liked, shared and commented on my videos, and the generosity of those who've kindly given through Ko-fi and my Amazon wishlist. There were 2 things bought from there since the last mudlarking video: a nice book on Leonardo da Vinci, although I think a problem occurred with that as it didn't arrive and returned to the wishlist, and some tin snips which I wanted for cutting up the brass and copper sheets I've acquired for graph projects. So thank you so much, Rosalind Phillipson, for these. I have a feeling that their usefulness will stretch much further than their initial planned use. I apologise that this was a badly planned walk. When the weather improves a little, there'll be some longer walk videos with extra batteries, There's also going to be some more poetry reading videos. I'll pin a link to the 3 that I've done so far in the comments. They are on this channel, but on different playlists with different tags, so only subscribers who fit the bell icon and specified all notifications see them. I am also currently constructing a simple craft video, which wasn't entirely successful. More complicated, and so perhaps more likely to go horribly wrong, craft project videos are slowly coming along too. I do hope you've enjoyed this very different video. If you have and you'd like to, then any way you choose to show appreciation is very much appreciated. The options, as previously mentioned, are leaving a like, a comment, sharing the video, subscribing. If you subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of new releases. A further option, never an obligation, is to buy me a hypothetical coffee through Ko-fi or something off my Amazon wishlist, both of which propel me faster towards some of the videos that I would like to make. And there is a new option. I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not yet, and if it's going to be kept. A separate Amazon wishlist with things in no way related to video making. Just a few books that I'd enjoy reading, and food items that I rarely but sometimes treat myself with, in lieu of a post office box, which is a fairly expensive thing around here that I can't currently afford. It's perhaps one viable avenue for the small number of people who've expressed a desire to send me more personal gifts, without me needing to give out my personal address. There is absolutely no obligation for anyone to buy me anything from it. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.